I was halfway through clearing the Henderson family's driveway when I saw her marching across the snow-covered street, phone in one hand and what looked like an HOA handbook in the other. February in Rochester, Minnesota was brutal this year, and the blizzard that had started 3 days ago showed no signs of stopping. Wind howled through the residential streets of Meadowbrook Hills, whipping snow into drifts that reached past my truck's windows. I'd been working 16-hour days trying to keep the neighborhood passable, and I was exhausted. The woman storming toward me wore a white puffy jacket that made her look like an angry marshmallow. Her blonde hair was styled in that particular way that screamed entitlement, and her face was already twisted into what I recognized as pre-complaint mode. I killed the plow's engine and climbed down from the cab, my boots sinking into 8 inches of fresh powder. "Excuse me," she shouted over the wind. "I need to speak with you immediately." "Yes, madam. What can I help you with?" I pulled my neck warmer down so she could hear me better. "I'm Patricia Whitmore, president of the Meadowbrook Hills HOA, and I'm commandeering your snowplow." She said it like she was declaring martial law. I blinked snow out of my eyes, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "You heard me. I need your plow for my street. Willow Creek Lane has not been properly maintained, and as HOA president, I'm directing you to prioritize my street immediately." She thrust her phone toward me, showing what appeared to be a map with her street highlighted in yellow. "Madam, I'm working through the neighborhood in a systematic pattern. I'll get to Willow Creek Lane when I know. You don't understand. I have a very important appointment tomorrow morning and I need to be able to get out. This is unacceptable." Her voice hit that particular pitch that retail workers worldwide would recognize. I took a deep breath, watching it fog in the frigid air. "I understand your frustration, but I'm contracted to clear all the streets in order. I've got a list and I stick to it. Your street is scheduled for this afternoon." "That's not good enough. Do you know who I am? I'm the HOA president. I have the authority to direct contractors working in this neighborhood." "Actually, madam, that's not quite how it works. I'm a private contractor. The HOA doesn't have authority over my work schedule." Her eyes narrowed. "What's your name?" "Jason Anderson." She tapped something into her phone, her gloved fingers jabbing at the screen. "Well, Jason Anderson, we'll see about that. I'm filing a complaint with the HOA board. You're in violation of our community standards." I almost laughed. "Madam, with all due respect, I don't live in your community. I'm just clearing snow." "Then you'll be banned from working in Meadowbrook Hills. We have very strict regulations about who can operate equipment in our neighborhood." She pulled out her handbook and started flipping through pages with dramatic flourish. "That's interesting," I said, genuinely curious now about where this was going. "Because I'm actually the only licensed snow removal contractor in Olmsted County who's certified to work in residential planned communities. You'd know that if you actually read your HOA documentation." Her face went still. "What?" "The county requires special licensing for snow removal in HOA-managed neighborhoods. Insurance liability, safety certification, the whole deal. It's pretty strict. I went through 8 months of training and testing 3 years ago. I'm the only one who qualified and actually maintains the certification." I gestured at the magnetic sign on my truck door. "Anderson's All-Weather Contracting. It's literally in your HOA contract." Patricia's mouth opened and closed. "That's ridiculous. There must be other contractors." "There were. Used to be 3 of us. Mike Thompson retired to Florida last year. David Ramirez moved to Iowa, so it's just me now. Your HOA signed a 5-year exclusive contract with me 18 months ago. I'm honestly surprised you didn't know that, being president and all." The color drained from her face, then rushed back in an angry red flush. This is unacceptable. I'll call other contractors from neighboring counties. You could try, I said, but they won't have the certification, which means they can't get the insurance to work here, which means they'd be in violation of state regulations. Plus, with this blizzard, every contractor from here to the Iowa border is already working around the clock. But hey, you're welcome to make some calls. Patricia's jaw clenched. You're being deliberately difficult. No, madam, I'm being realistic. I'll get to your street in about 3 hours. That's the best I can do. 3 hours, that's completely unacceptable. I want my street cleared now. Right now. I felt my patience wearing thin. Then I guess you'll have to wait, just like everyone else in the neighborhood. I'll have you fired. You can't fire me. I have a contract that protects me from arbitrary termination. Your HOA board would have to prove I violated specific terms, and since I'm following the agreed-upon snow removal schedule exactly as written, good luck with that. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. I can make your life very difficult, Mr. Anderson. By doing what exactly? I was genuinely curious now. I'd dealt with difficult HOA board members before, but Patricia was reaching new levels. I'll find code violations. I'll inspect every property you service. I'll make sure every single resident knows that you refuse to help the HOA president during an emergency. This isn't an emergency. It's a snowstorm in Minnesota in February, and I'm not refusing to help. I'm literally standing here in a blizzard, clearing snow, doing exactly what I'm paid to do. Patricia pulled out her phone again and started recording. I'm documenting this conversation. Your refusal to provide emergency services, your hostile attitude, your complete disregard for community safety. I raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. While you're at it, document that I've been working for 14 hours today, that I've cleared 17 streets already, and that your street is scheduled for this afternoon, exactly as contracted. She stopped recording and made a phone call instead. Yes, hello, this is Patricia Whitmore. I need to speak with County Code Enforcement about a contractor violation. She walked away, still talking, gesturing wildly with her free hand. I climbed back into my truck and radioed my wife. Hey, Grace, how's it going out there? Her voice crackled through the speaker. Just had an interesting encounter with the HOA president. She tried to commandeer the plow. Grace laughed. You're kidding. Nope. She literally used the word commandeer, also threatened to get me fired, fined code violations, and is currently calling county enforcement. Wow. And she doesn't know? Apparently not. I told her, but I don't think it's sinking in yet. This is going to be fun. Want me to pull up the contract, please? I have a feeling I'm going to need it. I got back to work, finishing the Henderson driveway and moving on to the next street. Patricia followed me in her white Range Rover, staying about 30 feet behind, occasionally getting out to take pictures. It was bizarre and kind of pathetic. Around noon, I stopped at the corner store to grab lunch. Patricia parked beside me, blocking my driver's side door. That's a fire lane, I said, walking around to the passenger side. I spoke with county enforcement. They're investigating your licensing. Good. They'll confirm everything I told you. I pulled myself into the cab. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to eat something before I pass out. You're not taking a lunch break. There's too much snow. I stared at her. Madam, I've been working since 5 this morning. I'm required by law to take breaks. I'm going to eat a sandwich, drink some coffee, and then get back to work. I'll add this to my complaint. You do that. I sat in my truck, eating a turkey sandwich and watching Patricia talk on her phone. She seemed to be getting increasingly agitated, waving her arms and pacing in the snow. My own phone rang. Jason Anderson. Mr. Anderson, this is Margaret Chen from the Meadowbrook Hills HOA board. I understand there's been some confusion. You could say that. Patricia called an emergency board meeting. She's demanding we terminate your contract. I took a sip of coffee. On what grounds? She claims you refused to provide emergency services and verbally harassed her. That's interesting, considering I've been working non-stop for 3 days and she's the one who's been following me around demanding I skip the scheduled route to clear her street first. There was a pause. That's what we suspected. Jason, I want to apologize. Patricia is new to the board, and she apparently didn't review the actual contract or understand the certification requirements. She told me she's the president. She is, unfortunately. She was elected 3 months ago. The previous president had done this job for 8 years and understood how everything worked. Patricia ran on a platform of getting tough on contractors and putting residents first. She got a lot of support from newer residents who didn't really understand what she meant. So what happens now? We're having a meeting tonight at 7. Can you attend? I think it would help if you explained the situation directly to the full board. I'll be there if I finish my route. Where? Community Center on Maple Drive. That's on my list for this afternoon anyway. I'll see you at 7. I hung up and finished my lunch. Patricia was still on her phone, but now she was sitting in her car. I wondered how long she planned to follow me around. The afternoon proceeded with Patricia shadowing me through 6 more streets. Every time I stopped to adjust the plow angle or clear a particularly stubborn drift, she was there, taking pictures, making calls, writing notes in a little leather journal. It was equal parts annoying and entertaining. Around 4 o'clock, I finally reached Willow Creek Lane. Patricia's house was at the end, a large colonial with pretentious columns and a 3-car garage. I cleared the street methodically, working my way down from the main road. When I reached her driveway, I gave it the same treatment as everyone else's. Cleared to bare pavement, snow pushed to the sides in neat banks. Patricia got out of her car and inspected my work like a sergeant examining a soldier's footlocker. She walked the length of her driveway, taking pictures, checking the edges, even measuring the height of the snow banks with a tape measure she pulled from her pocket. "It's acceptable," she finally said, as if bestowing a great honor. "I'm glad it meets your standards," I said dryly. "But this doesn't change anything. You should have done this hours ago." "I did it exactly when it was scheduled, just like I told you I would." She didn't respond, just got back in her Range Rover and drove away. I watched her taillights disappear around the corner and shook my head. Some people just couldn't admit when they were wrong. I spent the next 2 hours finishing the remaining streets in the neighborhood. By 6:30, every road in Meadowbrook Hills was cleared. My shoulders ached, my hands were numb despite the heated cab, and I desperately wanted a hot shower and 12 hours of sleep. Instead, I headed to the community center. The parking lot was surprisingly full. Word had apparently gotten out about the emergency meeting. I recognized several vehicles belonging to residents whose driveways I'd cleared over the past few days. As I walked to the entrance, Tom Henderson called out, "Jason, hey, thanks for clearing our driveway this morning. Kids were able to get to school." "No problem, Tom. Just doing my job." "I heard Patricia gave you grief. That woman's been a nightmare since she got elected. She certainly has opinions. That's one word for it. Half the neighborhood is in there. We wanted to make sure the board didn't do anything stupid." That was unexpected but appreciated. I followed Tom into the community center's main meeting room. About 40 people were already seated in folding chairs arranged in rows facing a long table where 5 board members sat. Patricia was in the center chair, looking smug. To her right was Margaret Chen, the woman I'd spoken to on the phone. The other 3 board members were Frank Morrison, Susan Clark, and David Young. I recognized all of them from previous HOA functions. Patricia banged a gavel on the table. This emergency session of the Meadowbrook Hills HOA board is now in session. We're here to discuss the conduct of our snow removal contractor, Jason Anderson. She looked directly at me. Mr. Anderson, please take a seat. I sat in the front row. Grace had texted me during my drive over, confirming that she'd emailed copies of our contract to all board members. I pulled out my own copy from my jacket pocket. Mr. Anderson, Patricia began, you are here because you refused to provide emergency services during a severe weather event, verbally harassed an HOA board member, and failed to prioritize community safety. Margaret cleared her throat. Patricia, before we continue, I'd like to note for the record that I've reviewed Mr. Anderson's contract. He appears to have followed all specified procedures exactly as written. Patricia's smile tightened. That's your opinion, Margaret. However, as president, I have the authority to determine what constitutes adequate service. Actually, you don't, Susan Clark said, holding up several printed pages. I've also reviewed the contract. It's extremely specific about service schedules, response times, and work procedures. Mr. Anderson has met every single requirement. Furthermore, David Young added, Mr. Anderson is the only certified contractor who can legally work in our community. Terminating his contract would leave us without any snow removal services. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. That's exactly the kind of monopolistic behavior I'm talking about. We should have choices. We did have choices, Frank Morrison said, until the other certified contractors retired or moved away. That's not Jason's fault. He didn't create the certification requirements. The county did, along with the State Insurance Commission. It's all documented. This is absurd, Patricia snapped. Are you all defending his insubordination? What insubordination? I asked. I cleared your street exactly when I said I would. I've been working around the clock for 3 days straight. Every street in this neighborhood is currently passable. What exactly did I do wrong? Patricia pulled out her phone. You refused my direct order to clear my street first. You were hostile and dismissive. You showed complete disregard for my authority as HOA president. You don't have the authority to override a contracted work schedule, Margaret said firmly. Jason is right. The HOA board as a whole has oversight, but individual board members can't unilaterally change contractor assignments or work orders. I want this contract terminated, Patricia said. Right now, we'll find someone else. There is no one else, Susan repeated. And even if there were, we'd be in breach of contract. We'd owe Jason significant penalties for early termination without cause. Patricia's face was turning red. Then we'll claim cause. Insubordination, hostile behavior, failure to meet community standards. None of which actually happened, I said. I have a complete log of every street I cleared with timestamps. I have GPS tracking on my truck showing exactly where I was and when. I have the original schedule that your HOA approved. Everything matches perfectly. You followed me around all day taking pictures, Patricia countered. You have all the evidence you need that I did my job. She hadn't thought of that. Her mouth opened and closed several times. Margaret looked at the other board members. I move that we dismiss this complaint as without merit and confirm Jason Anderson's contract remains in full effect. Second, said Susan immediately. All in favor? Margaret asked. 4 hands went up. Only Patricia's remained down. The motion passes, Margaret said. Jason, please accept our apologies for this waste of your time. You're doing excellent work and we appreciate your dedication, especially during this severe weather. Patricia stood abruptly. This is unacceptable. I'm the president of this board. You can't overrule me." "We just did," Frank said. "The board operates by majority vote. You know that, Patricia. It's in the bylaws." "Then the bylaws need to change. I'm calling for a vote of no confidence." "Against whom?" David asked. "Against all of you and against this ridiculous contract." Margaret sighed. "Patricia, you're embarrassing yourself. Please sit down." "No, I will not sit down. I will not accept this. I demand that we put this to a community vote." "The community doesn't vote on individual contracts," Susan said. "That's why we have a board, to handle administrative decisions like this." Patricia looked out at the assembled residents. "Don't you see what's happening? This contractor has monopolized our community services. He can charge whatever he wants. He can provide substandard service, and we have no recourse." Tom Henderson stood up. "Jason cleared my driveway before dawn this morning so my kids could get to school. He's cleared my street 3 times in the past 2 days. That's not substandard service." A woman in the back stood next. "He cleared my 80-year-old mother's driveway for free last year when her furnace broke, and she needed to get to a hotel. That's not someone taking advantage." One by one, residents stood and shared similar stories. "The time I stayed late to help someone whose car had broken down. The time I cleared a path to someone's house so paramedics could get through. The time I worked through Christmas Day because a pipe had burst and a family needed access for emergency repairs." Patricia's face grew redder with each testimonial. "You're all being foolish. He's manipulating you." "No," Margaret said quietly. "You're the one who's been trying to manipulate people, Patricia. Ever since you got elected, you've been looking for ways to exert control. You tried to change the landscaping requirements so your friend's company would get the contract. You pushed for new parking restrictions that would have ticketed people who didn't vote for you. You filed complaints against 3 different residents for minor violations, while ignoring the exact same violations committed by your supporters." "That's slander," Patricia hissed. "It's documented fact," Susan said. "We have the complaints you filed. We have the violations you ignored. We have emails where you discussed using HOA authority to punish people who disagreed with you." I was starting to understand that this meeting was about much more than just my snow removal contract. Patricia grabbed her papers. "Fine. If that's how you want to play this, then I resign, effective immediately." "We accept your resignation," Margaret said without hesitation. Patricia stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. The room sat in stunned silence for a moment. Frank finally spoke. "Well, that went better than expected." The room erupted in nervous laughter. Margaret banged the gavel. "If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Jason, again, our apologies. Please send us an invoice for your time tonight." "Not necessary," I said. "I'm just glad it's resolved." I was halfway to my truck when my phone rang. Unknown number. Jason Anderson. "Mr. Anderson, this is Officer Sarah Mitchell with the Rochester Police Department. Are you currently at the Meadowbrook Hills Community Center?" My stomach dropped. "Yes, I am. Please stay there. We need to speak with you about an incident." "What kind of incident?" "I'd rather discuss it in person. We're 5 minutes away." I walked back inside and found Margaret. "Police are coming. They want to talk to me about an incident." Her face went pale. "What incident?" "I don't know. They didn't say." We didn't have to wait long. 2 police cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. 4 officers entered the community center. Officer Mitchell was a tall woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that took in the entire room in one sweep. "Jason Anderson?" "That's me. I'm Officer Mitchell. This is Officer James Peterson. We'd like to ask you some questions about Patricia Whitmore." "Okay. What about her?" "She called 911 about 20 minutes ago claiming you threatened her with violence. She says you've been harassing her all day and that you just threatened her life in front of witnesses. I stared. That's completely false. I've been clearing snow. She's the one who followed me around all day. Margaret stepped forward. Officer, I'm Margaret Chen, Vice President of the HOA Board. I was at this meeting. Jason didn't threaten anyone. Patricia resigned after we voted against her complaint. Officer Mitchell pulled out a notepad. Can you walk me through exactly what happened? For the next 30 minutes, Margaret, Susan, Frank, David, and I gave statements. Multiple residents backed up our version of events. Officer Mitchell took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. So let me make sure I understand, she said. Mrs. Whitmore tried to commandeer your snowplow this morning. Yes, she said she needed my truck for her street. And you refused. I explained that I was following a contracted schedule and would get to her street in a few hours, which I did. And she followed you around all day, taking pictures and making phone calls, yes. Officer Mitchell exchanged a glance with her partner. And at tonight's meeting, the board voted against her complaint, 4-1, yes. After which she resigned, stormed out actually, Frank said. Slammed the door pretty hard. Officer Mitchell closed her notepad. Mr. Anderson, thank you for your cooperation. Based on these statements, it's clear that Mrs. Whitmore's complaint is false. However, I do need to inform you that she's also filed for a restraining order. A restraining order? For what? She claims you've been stalking her and threatening her safety. She wants you banned from coming within 500 feet of her property. I felt my blood pressure spike. Officer, I'm the snow removal contractor for this neighborhood. Her property is right in the middle of my route. If I can't go within 500 feet of her house, I can't do my job. I understand that. The judge will consider all factors when reviewing her petition. In the meantime, I'd advise you to document everything. Keep logs, GPS records, anything that shows where you were and what you were doing. I already do that for insurance purposes. Good, keep it up. One more thing. Officer Mitchell's expression became more serious. Mrs. Whitmore also claimed that you damaged her property. She says you deliberately pushed snow onto her driveway and blocked her garage doors. That's ridiculous. I have before and after photos of every driveway I clear. It's standard procedure. I'd like to see those photos, particularly the ones from her property. I pulled out my phone and showed Officer Mitchell the time-stamped photos of Patricia's driveway. Clear before and after shots showing the driveway cleared to bare pavement, snow neatly banked on either side, garage doors completely accessible. Officer Mitchell nodded. These are good. Email these to me, please. She handed me a card. Also, I need to inform you that Mrs. Whitmore mentioned something about her security cameras. She says she has footage of you trespassing on her property. I cleared her driveway. That's not trespassing. That's literally what I'm paid to do. I agree, but she's threatening to press charges. Just be aware. After the officers left, I sat in my truck for a long time, hands on the steering wheel trying to process everything. My phone buzzed. Grace. Hey, honey, how did the meeting go? It's a long story. I'm coming home. Jason, you sound stressed. What happened? I told her everything. The confrontation, the meeting, Patricia's resignation, the police, the restraining order threat. Grace was quiet for a moment. She's trying to destroy your business. That's what it feels like. What are we going to do? Document everything. Talk to our lawyer. Hope the judge sees through her nonsense. Jason, this is serious. If she gets that restraining order, you can't work in Meadowbrook Hills. That's 40% of your business. I know. We need to fight this. I know. The next morning, I called Daniel Wright, the attorney who'd handled our business contracts. He listened to my story without interrupting. Jason, this is harassment. What she's doing is malicious and potentially criminal. Can we do anything about it? Several things. First, we file a response to her restraining order petition with all your documentation. Photos, GPS logs, contract details, witness statements. Second, we consider filing a defamation suit. Her false allegations could damage your professional reputation. Third, we send her a cease and desist letter. Will any of that actually stop her? Maybe. Maybe not. People like this usually only stop when they face serious consequences. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. In the meantime, the blizzard finally broke. The sun came out, temperature climbed to a balmy 25 degrees, and I got back to work clearing the secondary streets and helping residents dig out their sidewalks. I deliberately avoided Willow Creek Lane. If Patricia wanted to claim harassment, I wasn't going to give her ammunition. Of course, that meant her street didn't get the same secondary clearing that the rest of the neighborhood received. By Friday, Patricia had called the police 3 more times. Once claiming I'd driven past her house menacingly. Once claiming I'd left threatening notes in her mailbox. Once claiming I'd vandalized her car. Each time the police investigated. Each time they found no evidence. Each time they seemed more annoyed with Patricia than concerned about me. Officer Mitchell called me Friday afternoon. "Mr. Anderson, I wanted to give you a heads up. We're documenting all of Mrs. Whitmore's calls. If this pattern continues, we may charge her with filing false police reports." I appreciate that, officer. Also, we reviewed her security camera footage. The footage she claims shows you trespassing. It shows you clearing her driveway, exactly as you described. We've noted that in our report for the judge. Thank you. One more thing. Several of your neighbors have filed complaints about Mrs. Whitmore. Apparently, she's been going door to door trying to organize some kind of boycott against your services. A boycott. She's telling people you're dangerous and unstable. She's trying to get them to sign a petition demanding the HOA terminate your contract. How many signatures has she gotten? According to our reports, 0. In fact, several residents told her to leave their property and not come back. That was some good news, at least. Tuesday morning arrived cold and clear. I put on my only suit, grabbed my box of documentation, and drove to the Olmsted County Courthouse. Daniel met me outside, ready as I'll ever be. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. Judge Rebecca Torres presided, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s with reading glasses perched on her nose. Patricia sat on the opposite side with her own attorney, a young guy in an expensive suit who kept checking his phone. Judge Torres reviewed the petition. "Mrs. Whitmore, you're requesting a restraining order against Mr. Anderson on the grounds of harassment and stalking. Please present your case." Patricia's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client has been subjected to sustained harassment by Mr. Anderson. He has followed her, photographed her property, made threatening statements, and caused her significant emotional distress." Judge Torres looked at me. "Mr. Anderson, how do you respond?" Daniel stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Anderson is a licensed snow removal contractor working under an HOA contract. Every interaction with Mrs. Whitmore occurred during the normal course of his professional duties. We have extensive documentation proving that Mrs. Whitmore's claims are false. I'd like to see that documentation." For the next hour, Daniel presented our evidence. Photos, GPS logs, timestamps, contract terms, witness statements, police reports. He showed the judge the timeline of events, clearly demonstrating that I'd been working my scheduled route while Patricia had followed me. Patricia's attorney tried to counter. "Your Honor, the emotional impact on my client is real regardless of Mr. Anderson's intentions." "What specific threatening behavior are you alleging?" Judge Torres asked. "He told my client he could make her life difficult." That's a lie, I said, unable to stop myself. Daniel put a hand on my arm. Judge Torres looked at Patricia. Mrs. Whitmore, do you have any proof of this statement? Recording witnesses. It was just the two of us, but I know what I heard. Mr. Anderson, did you make this statement? No, Your Honor. She threatened to make my life difficult. I asked her how she planned to do that. She misinterpreted the question as a threat. Judge Torres reviewed her notes. I've seen the police reports. 4 separate calls, all investigated, no evidence found. I've seen Mr. Anderson's work logs showing he was performing contracted duties. I've seen witness statements from multiple residents and HOA board members contradicting your version of events. She looked at Patricia. Mrs. Whitmore, is there any objective evidence supporting your claims? Patricia's face flushed. He's manipulating everyone. He has the entire neighborhood under his control. That's not evidence. That's speculation. Judge Torres closed the file. I'm denying your petition for a restraining order. Mr. Anderson's documentation clearly shows he was conducting legitimate business activities. Your claims of harassment and stalking are unsupported by evidence. Your Honor, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Whitmore. I also understand that you filed multiple false police reports and attempted to interfere with Mr. Anderson's contracted business activities. If you continue this pattern of behavior, you may face charges for making false statements to law enforcement and for harassment. Patricia's attorney leaned over and whispered something to her. She shook her head violently. Judge Torres continued. Mr. Anderson, do you wish to pursue any counterclaims at this time? Daniel stood. Your Honor, we'd like to reserve the right to file a defamation suit pending any further actions by Mrs. Whitmore. Noted. This hearing is concluded. I walked out of the courthouse feeling like I'd just run a marathon. Daniel clapped me on the shoulder. Good outcome. She's got nothing. Will she stop? Probably not immediately, but now there's a legal record. If she keeps going, she'll face actual consequences. I drove home and spent the afternoon catching up on work in other neighborhoods. Around 5, Margaret Chen called. Jason, I wanted to let you know that the HOA board met this afternoon. We've formally banned Patricia from attending board meetings or participating in HOA business. Can you do that? She resigned, remember. She's no longer a board member, and we've documented her harassment campaign against you and several residents. She's violated multiple HOA rules about conduct. How did she take it? We haven't told her yet. We're sending a certified letter tomorrow. But there's something else you should know. Patricia's been on Nextdoor and Facebook posting about you, calling you dangerous, saying you threatened her, telling people to avoid your business. My stomach sank. That's going to destroy my reputation. Actually, it's backfiring. Every post she makes gets dozens of comments from your satisfied customers defending you. People are posting their own photos of your work, sharing stories about times you helped them. It's actually turning into great advertising for you. Really, really. But Jason, you should document those posts. They're evidence of defamation if you decide to sue. I spent that evening taking screenshots of every social media post Patricia had made. Margaret was right. For every accusation Patricia posted, there were 20 or 30 responses from people defending me. Tom Henderson had posted a whole thread about my work ethic. A woman named Jennifer Martinez shared photos of the time I'd helped dig out her elderly father's house after his snowblower broke. Another resident posted a video of me clearing streets at 2 in the morning during last year's ice storm. But Patricia wasn't done. Late that night, she posted a long rant claiming I'd conspired with the HOA board to push her out. She claimed corruption, bribery, and a conspiracy to control neighborhood services. She called for a recall of the entire board and demanded a full investigation. The post was up for about 3 hours before Nextdoor removed it for violating their community guidelines. But I'd already screenshot it. Wednesday morning, I was back at work. February was winding down, but Minnesota winters didn't quit easily. Another few inches had fallen overnight, and I had a full day of clearing ahead. I was working on Oak Ridge Drive when a car pulled up beside me, not Patricia's Range Rover. This was a silver Mercedes. The driver rolled down the window. "Jason Anderson, that's me. I'm Richard Whitmore, Patricia's husband." I killed the plow and climbed down. Richard was maybe 50 with graying hair and tired eyes. He looked like a man who'd been dealing with something exhausting for a very long time. "What can I do for you, Mr. Whitmore?" I wanted to apologize for my wife's behavior. She's been under a lot of stress and she's not handling it well. "With all due respect, sir, that's not really an excuse for filing false police reports and trying to destroy my business." "I know, you're right." He rubbed his face. "I've tried to talk to her. She won't listen. She's convinced she's right and everyone else is part of some conspiracy against her." "That's not my problem to solve, Mr. Whitmore. I know. But I wanted you to know that not everyone in my family supports what she's doing, and I wanted to ask if there's any way to de-escalate this situation. Your wife needs to stop. Stop the social media posts. Stop calling the police. Stop harassing my customers. If she does that, I have no interest in pursuing legal action." Richard nodded slowly. "I'll try to talk to her again, but honestly, I don't think she's going to stop. She's never been good at admitting when she's wrong. Then she's going to face legal consequences. My attorney is prepared to file defamation charges." "I understand." Richard reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "This is my direct number. If Patricia does anything else, call me first. I'll try to intervene." After he left, I sat in my truck thinking about that conversation. Richard seemed like a decent guy trapped in a bad situation. I almost felt sorry for him. The next few days were quiet. No police calls. No social media rants. No confrontations. I started to hope that maybe Patricia had finally given up. I should have known better. Sunday afternoon, I was at home watching TV when Grace called me from the kitchen. "Jason, you need to see this." She had her laptop open to the Meadowbrook Hills community Facebook group. Patricia had posted a video. In it, she stood in front of her house, camera pointed at her driveway. "As you can see," she was saying, "my driveway has not been properly maintained. While Jason Anderson cleared every other street in the neighborhood multiple times, he's deliberately neglected my property. This is retaliation for my legitimate complaints about his poor service." The video showed her driveway, which admittedly looked rough. But that was because I'd been avoiding her street after the restraining order hearing to prevent further accusations of harassment. The comments section was split. A few people agreed with Patricia, but most pointed out that she'd been harassing me for weeks and that I was probably avoiding her property to protect myself. One comment from Margaret Chen was particularly direct. "Patricia, you filed for a restraining order against Jason claiming he was stalking you. He's been staying away from your property to comply with your wishes. You can't have it both ways." Patricia responded, "This proves my point. He's retaliating against me. He's violating his contract by not maintaining my property." I called Daniel. "She's posted another video." "I saw it." "Save it. It's more evidence. She's claiming I'm violating the contract. You're not. The contract specifies maintenance schedules for the neighborhood as a whole. Individual properties can be temporarily delayed for legitimate reasons, including ongoing legal disputes. You're fine." Monday morning, I decided to clear Patricia's street. I'd been avoiding it, but her video had actually given me cover. I could show that I'd stayed away to avoid harassment claims but resumed normal service once she complained about the absence. I arrived at Willow Creek Lane around 8. Patricia's Range Rover was in the driveway. As I approached, she came out of her house, phone already recording. "What are you doing here? I don't want you on my property." "Madam, I'm clearing your street as per the HOA contract. If you want me to skip your driveway specifically, I need that in writing from you or the HOA board. This is harassment. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead." I started clearing the street, working methodically. Patricia did call the police. Officer Mitchell arrived about 20 minutes later. By this point, I'd cleared the entire street except Patricia's driveway. "Mr. Anderson, Mrs. Whitmore, what's the situation?" I explained that I was performing contracted services. Patricia claimed I was violating the judge's order and harassing her. Officer Mitchell looked tired. "Mrs. Whitmore, there is no judge's order. Your restraining order was denied. Mr. Anderson is legally allowed to be here performing his job. But he's doing this to intimidate me. He's clearing snow. That's his job." Officer Mitchell turned to me. "Jason, are you willing to skip her property to avoid further conflict? If she requests that in writing, yes." Officer Mitchell looked at Patricia. "Do you want to formally request that Mr. Anderson not service your property?" Patricia hesitated. "I want proper service. But I don't want him on my property." "Those are contradictory requests, madam. Either you want the service or you don't. I want a different contractor." "There is no other contractor," Officer Mitchell said, patience clearly wearing thin. "We've been over this multiple times." Patricia's face twisted. "This is discrimination. You're all protecting him because he's a man. If I were a man, you'd take my complaint seriously." Officer Mitchell's expression hardened. "Mrs. Whitmore, I've investigated 4 separate complaints from you in the past 2 weeks. Each time, I've found no evidence of wrongdoing by Mr. Anderson. Each time, the evidence has shown that your complaints were false. This has nothing to do with gender. This has to do with facts. I want to file a complaint against you. You're biased." "You're welcome to do that, madam. The complaint forms are available at the station." Officer Mitchell turned to me. "Jason, go ahead and finish your work. Mrs. Whitmore, if you interfere with Mr. Anderson's contracted duties, I'll cite you for obstruction." Patricia stormed back into her house. I cleared her driveway quickly and moved on. As I was leaving, I saw her standing in the window, phone still recording. That night, another video appeared online. This one showed me clearing her driveway while Patricia narrated about how she'd been forced to accept service from a man who threatened her. The comments section exploded with people calling her out for her contradictions, but mixed in with the criticism were a few supporters. A woman named Brenda said she'd also had problems with male contractors being dismissive. Another person named Kenneth said HOA boards were corrupt, and Patricia was brave for standing up to them. It was a small minority, but they were loud. Tuesday morning, I woke up to find my business phone flooded with voicemails. Most were supportive, customers confirming their service or praising my work. But 3 were angry, accusing me of being a misogynist and threatening to report me to the Better Business Bureau. Grace listened to them with me. These are probably Patricia's friends, probably. But it's still concerning. If she's organizing people, this could get worse. Daniel called mid-morning. "Jason, I think it's time to file the defamation suit." She's not stopping, and her accusations are getting more serious. She's now claiming gender discrimination, which could impact your ability to get contracts with other HOAs. How strong is our case? Very strong. We have documentation showing every claim she's made is false. We have witness testimony. We have police reports. We have her own social media posts contradicting herself. A judge will see through this immediately. Okay, file it. The defamation lawsuit was filed Wednesday morning. Patricia was served with papers Wednesday afternoon. By Wednesday evening, she'd posted a video calling the lawsuit proof of harassment and claiming I was trying to silence her because she spoke truth to power. The video was reported and removed within hours for making false claims about pending litigation. But Patricia just moved to a different platform, then another when that one removed her content too. Thursday morning, Margaret called. "Jason, I need to tell you something. Patricia showed up at the HOA office yesterday demanding to see financial records. She's claiming the board embezzled money to pay you off. That's insane. I know, but she's filed a formal complaint with the county. They're obligated to investigate. Will they find anything? Of course not. Our books are clean, but it's going to be a headache." Margaret paused. "Jason, I'm worried about her mental state. She's escalating. This isn't normal behavior. Should someone do a wellness check?" Richard requested one yesterday. The police went to their house. Patricia refused to speak with them and threatened to sue for harassment. "This is getting out of control, I know." Friday afternoon, things took a darker turn. I was clearing a street in a different neighborhood when dispatch radioed me. "Jason, we've got a problem. Someone vandalized your truck at the shop." My stomach dropped. "What kind of vandalism?" "Spray paint, slashed tires, broken windows. It's bad." I drove to my shop, a small garage I rented on the edge of town. My backup truck, the one I used for smaller jobs, was destroyed. Red spray paint covered every surface with words like harasser and misogynist and abuser. All 4 tires were slashed. The windshield and side windows were shattered. Someone had even poured what looked like bleach or paint thinner on the hood, damaging the finish. The police were already there when I arrived. Officer Mitchell was examining the damage. "Jason, do you have security cameras?" "No, I've been meaning to install them. Any idea who did this?" "I have a pretty good guess. Mrs. Whitmore. She's the only person I'm in conflict with." "Having a conflict isn't proof. Do you have any evidence linking her to this?" "No." Officer Mitchell took photos and filed a report. "We'll investigate, check with neighbors, see if anyone has camera footage, but without evidence, there's not much we can do." The damage was estimated at $8,000. My insurance would cover it, but I'd still face downtime and a deductible. I was furious but tried to keep calm. Grace came down to the shop after I called her. She stared at the destroyed truck, tears in her eyes. "Jason, this is serious. She's escalating to property damage. What's next?" "I don't know. I'm scared. What if she comes after us personally? What if she targets our house? We'll install security cameras front and back. I'll park my work truck at a secure lot instead of here." "That's not enough. We should file for a restraining order against her." "Based on what?" "We don't have proof she did this." "Who else would it be?" "I agree it's probably her, but probably isn't proof." Saturday morning, I rented a temporary truck while mine was being repaired. I had work scheduled and I couldn't afford to cancel. The rental cost $300 a day, cutting deep into my profits. While I was checking out the rental truck, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Jason Anderson." "Mr. Anderson, this is Detective Mark Sullivan with the Rochester Police Department. I'm investigating the vandalism to your vehicle. Do you have time to meet today?" "Yes, absolutely." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Detective Sullivan was in his 50s, methodical and thorough. He had a notebook filled with details about the case. "Mr. Anderson, we've been reviewing reports related to your ongoing conflict with Patricia Whitmore. Officer Mitchell briefed me on the history. I want to ask you some direct questions." "Of course." "You believe Mrs. Whitmore vandalized your truck?" "I think it's likely, but I have no proof." Has she ever made threats against your property? Not specifically. She's threatened to make my life difficult and to destroy my business, but she hasn't said anything about physical damage. Does anyone else have a reason to target you? Not that I know of. I've had the occasional unhappy customer, but nothing that would lead to this level of vandalism. Detective Sullivan made notes. We've canvassed the area around your shop. No security cameras nearby, no witnesses, but we did find something interesting. He pulled out a photo. This paint can was in a dumpster 2 blocks from your shop. It matches the paint used on your truck. Can you get prints from it? We're trying. It's been exposed to weather and garbage, so it's not ideal, but there's something else. He pulled out another photo. We found a receipt in the same dumpster. Purchase from a hardware store dated last Thursday. Spray paint, box cutter, work gloves. Can you trace the receipt? We're working on it. The store has security cameras. We should know in a day or two. I left the meeting feeling slightly more hopeful. At least the police were taking this seriously. Sunday was supposed to be a day off, but I spent it installing security cameras at our house and arranging for secure parking for my trucks. Grace helped, though she kept checking over her shoulder like she expected Patricia to jump out from behind a bush. "This is ridiculous," she said, mounting a camera above the garage. "We shouldn't have to live like this. I know. What if the police can't prove she did it? What if she keeps escalating? Then we document everything and let the legal system handle it." The legal system moves slowly, Jason. She could do a lot of damage in the meantime. She wasn't wrong. Monday morning, Detective Sullivan called. "Mr. Anderson, good news. We got footage from the hardware store. Clear image of the person who bought the paint supplies." "Is it Patricia?" "No, it's a man. Mid-20s, dark hair, medium build. Do you recognize him?" He texted me a screenshot from the security footage. I studied the image. "No, never seen him before." "We're running facial recognition. We'll figure out who he is." By Monday afternoon, they had an identification. The man's name was Tyler Bennett, and he had a prior record for vandalism and petty theft. More interestingly, he was Patricia's neighbor's son. Detective Sullivan called me with an update. We brought Tyler in for questioning. He confessed almost immediately. Said Patricia Whitmore paid him $500 to vandalize your truck. She paid him. He has text messages and a record of a Venmo transaction. Patricia used her own account. She wasn't even smart enough to hide it. What happens now? We're getting a warrant for Patricia's arrest. Criminal mischief, conspiracy to commit vandalism, possibly filing false police reports given her pattern of behavior. She's looking at serious charges. I sat down heavily. I never wanted this, I know. But she brought this on herself. You did everything right, Mr. Anderson. You documented, you stayed professional, you let the system work. Tuesday morning, Patricia Whitmore was arrested at her home. The news spread through the neighborhood within hours. Margaret called me. "Jason, did you hear? The detective told me yesterday." Richard called me. "He's devastated. He said he tried to get Patricia to stop, but she wouldn't listen. He's talking about divorce." "That's sad." "Is it?" "She brought this on herself. She harassed you for weeks. She filed false police reports. She paid someone to destroy your property. I don't have much sympathy." I feel bad for Richard, and for anyone else who cares about her. This is going to follow her forever. Patricia was arraigned Wednesday morning. She pleaded not guilty and was released on bond. The conditions of her release included staying away from me, my property, and my place of business. She was also ordered to stop posting about me on social media. Thursday morning, she violated the bond conditions by posting a long rant on Facebook claiming she'd been framed and that I'd orchestrated her arrest. The post was reported to her bail bondsman and to the court. She was arrested again Thursday afternoon. This time, the judge revoked her bond. Patricia would stay in jail until trial. The next few weeks were strange. Life slowly returned to normal. I cleared snow, serviced my customers, and worked on repairing the damaged truck. The neighborhood was quieter without Patricia's constant drama. Margaret called me in mid-March. "Jason, the HOA board wants to do something for you. A public recognition of your service and your professionalism through all of this." "That's not necessary." "We think it is. You could have retaliated. You could have abandoned your contract. You could have made everything worse. Instead, you stayed professional, documented everything, and let the system work. That's worthy of recognition." The HOA held a small ceremony at the community center. They presented me with a plaque and a bonus payment for the extra work I'd done during the blizzard. More importantly, they publicly thanked me and acknowledged how I'd handled the situation. Tom Henderson shook my hand. "You're a good man, Jason. Not many people would have kept their cool like you did." "I just did my job." "You did more than that. You showed everyone how to handle a difficult situation with grace." Patricia's trial was scheduled for May. Her attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't interested. The evidence was too strong, and Patricia's pattern of behavior was too clear. She'd crossed too many lines. In the meantime, Richard filed for divorce. He'd apparently been documenting Patricia's behavior for months, worried about her increasingly erratic decisions. The divorce proceedings revealed financial problems too. Patricia had been spending money recklessly, including thousands on her campaign to discredit me. Grace and I talked about whether to proceed with the defamation lawsuit. Daniel recommended we wait until after the criminal trial. "The criminal conviction will strengthen your civil case," he said. "Once a jury finds her guilty, it's much easier to prove defamation." In late April, Patricia's attorney contacted Daniel about settling the defamation suit. Patricia was facing serious jail time and wanted to minimize the financial damage. "She's offering $25,000, Daniel told me. "Plus a written apology and a commitment to never contact you or post about you again." "What do you think?" "It's a reasonable offer. A trial would cost you time and money, even if you win. And you'd probably win more, but there's no guarantee she could pay it. She's bleeding money on the criminal defense. I want the apology to be public, posted on every platform where she defamed me. I'll make that a condition." The settlement was finalized in early May. Patricia posted a public apology admitting she'd made false accusations and acknowledging that I'd been professional throughout. She paid the $25,000 and agreed to a permanent injunction preventing her from contacting me or making any public statements about me. The criminal trial happened in late May. I testified about the vandalism and the pattern of harassment leading up to it. Tyler Bennett testified about being paid to vandalize my truck. The prosecutor presented text messages, Venmo records, and Patricia's own social media posts showing her escalating behavior. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found Patricia guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit criminal mischief, filing false police reports, and criminal harassment. At sentencing in June, the judge was not sympathetic. "Mrs. Whitmore, you engaged in a sustained campaign of harassment against a man who was simply doing his job. You filed false police reports, wasting law enforcement resources. You paid someone to destroy his property. You attempted to destroy his professional reputation with false accusations. This behavior is unacceptable." Patricia was sentenced to 18 months in jail, with the possibility of parole after 9 months. She was also ordered to pay restitution for the damage to my truck and for my legal fees. Richard finalized the divorce while Patricia was in jail. He sold their house and moved out of state. I heard through Margaret that he'd apologized to numerous neighbors for Patricia's behavior and seemed genuinely broken by everything that had happened. By summer, life in Meadowbrook Hills had returned to normal. Margaret was elected HOA president. She proved to be fair, organized, and reasonable. She actually read the contracts before making decisions. One afternoon in July, Tom Henderson stopped me while I was doing some routine maintenance work. "Jason, I've been thinking about everything that happened with Patricia. You could have handled it differently. You could have been vindictive or petty, but you weren't. You just kept doing your job and let the truth speak for itself. I didn't really have a choice. Fighting her on her level would have made things worse. Maybe, but a lot of people would have tried anyway. You showed real character. I appreciate that, Tom. My company is looking for a facilities contractor, someone to handle snow removal, landscaping, basic maintenance for our office park. I thought of you. Interested? Definitely. Send me the details." That contract turned out to be worth $50,000 a year. It more than made up for the stress and expense of dealing with Patricia. Grace and I talked about everything one night in August, sitting on our back deck, watching the sunset. "It's finally over," she said. "Yeah, it is. Do you think she'll ever understand what she did wrong? Probably not. People like that rarely do. They're always the victim in their own story." I felt sorry for Richard. He seemed like a decent guy. He was wrong place, wrong person. "Do you think we'll ever hear from Patricia again?" "I hope not. But if we do, we'll handle it the same way." "Document, stay professional, let the system work." Grace squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you, you know. You could have let her destroy you. Instead, you came out stronger." "We came out stronger. You were with me the whole time." In September, Patricia was released on parole after serving 9 months. Part of her parole conditions included staying away from Meadowbrook Hills and having no contact with me. I heard through Margaret that Patricia had moved to a different state, trying to start over somewhere nobody knew her story. I hoped she'd learned something from the experience, though I doubted it. Some people never learn. The first snowfall came in November. As I climbed into my truck to start the season's work, I thought about everything that had happened. The confrontation, the harassment, the vandalism, the trial. It had been exhausting and stressful, but it had also taught me important lessons. I'd learned that documentation was everything. That staying professional mattered, even when someone was trying to provoke you. That the system, for all its flaws, usually worked if you let it. And that most people were decent, reasonable, and supportive when someone was being treated unfairly. I started my truck and headed toward Meadowbrook Hills. The streets were covered in fresh snow, pristine and white. As I engaged the plow and started clearing, I felt a sense of satisfaction. This was my job. This was what I was good at. And nobody, not Patricia or anyone else, could take that away from me. Margaret had texted me earlier that morning. "First snow of the season. Thanks in advance for keeping us safe and clear. The neighborhood appreciates you." I smiled and got to work. It was going to be a good winter.